In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a Pitman arm on your Chevy Express 2500. This is going to be located under the vehicle in the front. Let's get started. Move the seat into the frontmost position. Grab the seat belt and pull it all the way out. Put the seat belt through the bottom of the steering wheel. And lock the seat belt down. And now our wheel can't spin on us. Using a 15mm socket, remove the 2 bolts for the front air dam. Remove that front trim. Looking up above our steering gear, we're going to find our steering shaft. We have an 11mm bolt we have to remove. Using an 11mm socket. Remove the bolt. Using a chisel, we're going to spread apart that clamp. Open up that clamp the best you can. And you can see we have some movement in it now. We're going to mark our steering shaft on our steering box. And use a clean rag and wipe off any of the oil or dirt that's on my steering shaft and steering gear. I'm going to make a mark on my steering shaft. I'm going to put a mark on my steering gear. I'm also going to put a mark on my steering box. And when we go back together, we want to make sure that we have all 3 marks lined up. Using a 22mm socket, remove all of the lug nuts for the hubcap. Remove the hubcap. Using a 22mm socket, remove the 8 lug nuts. Remove the wheel. Go around removing all of the clips for the inner fender liner. Remove all the clips and the fender liner. We're going to remove the 2 lines off the top of our steering gear. I'm going to go in through the fender liner using an 18mm wrench. Crack the line free. Be sure you have a collection bucket under you. Fluid may come out. Remove the line. Do the same thing on the other hose. Remove the 2 lines. Using a 21mm socket, we're going to remove the nut for the Pitman arm joint. Remove the nut. We're going to help the steering shaft off of the steering gear. When we go back, just be sure that you put your mark back with the original mark. Using a 21mm socket, we're going to remove the top 2 bolts for the steering gear going through the frame. We have one more bolt, and it is between the sway bar and the frame. The reason we're doing this last is so that our wrench doesn't get pinched against the sway bar. As we loosen it, the steering gear should push out towards the middle of the vehicle. Loosen the bolt until the steering gear is free from it. We're going to leave this bolt installed. Using a 15mm socket, remove the nut for the sway bar link. Came out as a stud. Use a 10mm socket on top. Remove the bolt. Do the same thing on the other side. Using a 7mm socket, remove the stud. And let the sway bar drop down. When removing the steering gear, be sure to not move the Pitman arm as best as you can. We need to keep the steering box clocked on where it was, and that's why we made a mark on the steering shaft and the case. Remove the steering gear. Make sure your marks are still lined up from when you marked them in the car. If they aren't, be sure you bring your Pitman arm back to where they were. Be sure you spin it in the correct direction. Using a 34mm socket, we're going to remove the nut for the Pitman arm. See, when we did that, our mark moved, so we're actually going to pull that back to where it's supposed to be. Remove that lock washer. I have now used a torch to heat this up, and I have some tension being held on this through this puller. I have a set of adjustables that is holding on to my top steering gear, so I make sure I remember to put it back. With a bunch of tension onto this, we're going to shock it, and hopefully it lets go. Remove the old Pitman arm. Be sure you remember which way it came off. We're going to install the new one the exact same way. I'm going to help my Pitman arm get installed onto the steering gear. Install the lock washer. And install the nut. Snug the nut down. Using a large wrench to hold the Pitman arm still. And torque the nut to 184 foot-pounds. Remove the nut off the Pitman arm. Install the steering gear into that center link and get the steering gear to clear this power steering hose. And get it up against the frame rail. We're going to install the bolts into the steering gear. I'm lifting up on the steering gear on the other side of the frame to line up the bolt and get it installed. Get the 3 bolts installed by hand. Snug the bolts down. Torque the bolts to 111 foot-pounds. Install the lines into the steering box and get the fitting started. Get the lines nice and snug. Install the nut for the Pitman arm. Snug it down. Torque the nut to 47 foot-pounds. And then continue going until you have a slot that lines up with a hole in the bolt to install a cotter pin. Bend the cotter pin up and around. Push the sway bar up into place. We're going to get our studs started. Do the same thing on the other side. Install the top bolts. And snug them down. Torque the stud to 18 foot-pounds. Repeat the same process on the other side. Get the nut started for the stud. Snug the nuts down. Torque the nut to 34 foot-pounds. Torque the bolt to 34 foot-pounds. Repeat the same process on the other side. Install the steering shaft onto the steering gear. Make sure it's fully installed. Install the bolt. Snug it down nice and tight. Torque the bottom bolt to 45 foot-pounds. We're going to start on the left side and work to the right. We're going to get our fender liner installed and install the clips. Get all the clips installed, install the plastic shield, and get the bolts started. Snug both bolts down. Install the wheel. Install the 8 lug nuts by hand. Snug the lug nuts down. Using a 22mm socket, we're going to torque the lug nuts to 140 foot-pounds in a star pattern. Install the hubcap. Snug all the nuts down. Remove the seat belt from the steering wheel. I'm going to put my seat all the way back. Here we are up top looking at our power steering reservoir. We're going to remove the cap and we're going to top off the fluid and reinstall the cap. Now that your power steering reservoir is topped off, we're going to pop into the car and we're going to turn our steering wheel lock to lock for about 5 to 10 times with the vehicle off. If you have the wheels off the ground, this process is much easier, but it's still doable without the wheels off the ground.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.